What if the future of insurance and healthcare wasn't about paperwork, delays, or inefficiencies, but about intelligent systems that serve patients, hospitals, and insurers all at once? Today, I want to share lessons from our podcast with Sandeep Khurana, the CEO of Perceptiviti and Salesrobo.ai, who has spent 2 decades at the intersection of deep tech, AI, and complex global markets. The first version of Sherlock, Sandeep's flagship product, wasn't a slick SaaS dashboard. It was a Jupyter notebook that dumped outputs into Excel. No design, no branding, just raw results. But when executives saw how accurately it flagged anomalies in health claims, they didn't care about the UI. They cared that it worked.
It's about the earliest version of Sherlock. It was actually just several lines of code running on what is known as Jupyter Notebook. It's just a coding environment, throwing output on an Excel workbook. As rudimentary in its look and feel and how it was set up as that. What was good about it though was the outcome that it was generating. When I showed that outcome to a bunch of C suite executives in the largest insurance companies in the country, they were really excited about it.
That was enough to win early belief. This is the paradox of deep tech. Polish comes later. Conviction comes first. A product doesn't have to look good to prove its worth. It just has to show an outcome that matters. Sherlock's crude beginnings remind us that early traction often comes from ugly prototypes with beautiful results. Sherlock wasn't born in a lab. It was born in a hospital lobby. Sandeep had spent years working in healthcare and insurance, but it was his personal experience that made the problem undeniable. After his mother's surgery, he watched her wait 8 hours for an insurance claim to be processed before she could be discharged. That day, he saw firsthand how a broken process punishes everyone involved: the patient, the hospital, and the insurer. He realized then that claims weren't just an operations problem, they were a human problem. And while insurers had basic record systems, there was no intelligence layered on top to accelerate or improve decisions.
In the world, there are so many challenges. The time that it takes to get your claim approved, get it processed, is enormous. And you are sitting in discharge lobby of a hospital just waiting for your claim to get approved. You've been sent out of the room. You're just recovering from a surgery, and hospital needs the room for another patient. So you are sitting in discharge lobby for 8 hours waiting for your claim to come through. That really struck a chord somewhere that this needs fixing, and which is where we really put in our effort, knowledge, and learnings to build a solution that reduces that wait time, that helps patients in their biggest hour of need.
The takeaway? The best startup ideas don't come from whiteboards. They come from problems so real that you can't look away. When Sandeep pitched insurers, the first question wasn't about algorithms. It was, will you use my data for someone else? In healthcare and insurance, data isn't just sensitive, it's sacred. One breach of trust can ruin a company. That's why Perceptivity built hard rules. No shortcuts, no grey zones. Sherlock didn't learn from client data. It relied on synthetic data sets created in-house. Over time, this consistency built credibility with clients, who saw that data privacy wasn't a slide in a pitch deck. It was a principle in practice. So, in regulated industries, your tech can be copied, but your reputation for trust is irreplaceable. In India, many insurers dismissed AI with a simple line: why pay for your system when I can hire 5 people to do it cheaper? Labor is inexpensive, and technology often seems like a luxury. But Sherlock wasn't about replacing humans. It was about doing what humans couldn't: processing claims with 24/7 consistency, without fatigue, distraction, or error. A human processor might handle one case well and stumble on another. Sherlock handled every case with the same standard. This reliability mattered even more in markets like the US and UAE, where error tolerance is near zero.
Actually, a number of things. The first and foremost, shorter waiting times, which improves your customer satisfaction scores. That for all of them was the primary, that we want our customers to be really satisfied. Beyond that, bringing in automation and reduced requirement of manpower, that really helped their numbers, because ultimately it has to be justified by real hard numbers as well. Finally, bringing in consistency in their processing, because once you have an intelligent system looking at a transaction, they look at all the transactions equally.
Yes.
Versus a human, and each human being that is working on that team has different level of skill and capability and different level of pressures at that point in time. So their decision making varies
Absolutely.
depending on all of these factors. Whereas an intelligent AI system is always consistent.
That's the quiet truth about automation. Its power lies not in saving money on headcount, but in delivering results humans alone can't guarantee. Sandeep soon realized that Sherlock couldn't be exported as is. Regulations, workflows, and expectations differed across geographies. What worked in India didn't work in the UAE. So the team built a UAE specific version. It aligned with local compliance, adapted to cultural nuances, and delivered results that felt tailor made. That effort won them their first client in the region. And once the first came, others followed. India is globally recognized for technical depth, and that credibility gave Sandeep a head start. But reputation alone doesn't close deals, delivery does. That lesson became a rule. Global expansion isn't about translating pitch decks, it's about translating products. In 2024, a PwC survey found that 84% of consumers were more concerned about data privacy than 5 years earlier. That shift was visible everywhere. Clients weren't passively trusting vendors anymore. They were actively interrogating them. The question wasn't just where is my data hosted? It was, will you use my data to make your product smarter? And behind that question was fear. What if my data makes my competitor stronger? Sandeep built trust by making the boundaries clear. Even his team was trained to repeat the same commitment in every interaction. So the message stayed consistent across the company. That's how privacy stopped being a checkbox and became a culture. And in industries like healthcare, culture is the home. India is one of the hardest markets to sell AI into. The ROI case often collapses under cheap labor. The UAE, in contrast, thrives on boldness. Companies are willing to pay for innovation even before a hard ROI is proven. If you can show a new way to solve an old problem, they will give you a chance. For Sandeep, this meant the market pulled him forward faster than India ever could. Sometimes geography isn't just about scale, it's about mindset. Between 2015 and 2023, Indian deep tech startups raised just $7.6 billion. China raised $72 billion, the US $42 billion. The gap is staggering. The reasons are structural. Deep tech takes longer to prove. It demands patient investors, serious R&D, and tolerance for risk. India has immense talent, but its ecosystem has historically lacked patience. But things are shifting. More founders are daring to build, and more investors are backing them.
It's truly a hard problem. Deep tech has longer gestation period. As a result, it requires a lot longer staying power. It requires deep capabilities. It requires funding, right? And it requires eventually user education to your own self as well, because you don't know whatever you're creating, you don't know what all uses it may have. Right? So the biggest thing here is the staying power, because to figure all of these out, you need to be in the game long enough, and you need to create that staying power for your company, for your own personal self as well, because you have a life and a family to run.
Of course.
As long as you can stay, and as long as you can get the right set of capability in your team, eventually you will find that sweet spot of success.
That change is exactly what entrepreneurs like Sandeep represent. Building deep tech in India isn't easy, but that's why it's the biggest opportunity of the decade. From Sherlock to Salesrobo, from Infosys to UnitedHealth to the UAE, Sandeep Khurana's journey shows us what deep tech really takes. Not hype, not speed, but patience, trust, and persistence. So if you're building in deep tech, ask yourself, am I solving a problem real enough to keep me awake? Am I willing to win trust slowly, day by day? And can I stay standing long enough for the market to catch up? Because in the end, deep tech winners aren't the fastest. They're the ones still here when everyone else has left. Subscribe for more real-world founder stories and share which lessons hit home for your journey.